Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Uncannery. I'm Don.
I'm Ron. I go second, Doug.
No.
I've told you 100 times.
2.
I'm second billing. You're lucky to be here.
So we're not usually like this, but it's been an especially heated day. It's been an especially heated. Yeah, I was seeing where I could assert myself in terms of the dominance hierarchy, and clearly Ron's just gonna assert himself.
I'm not giving you an inch.
Why are you so heated, Doug?
I think it's, I don't know, I'm just like in the competitive spirit here. I've been playing a lot of games lately. And
what kind of game, Doug?
Well, I recently dipped, I don't know, depending on when you're listening to this, I feel like pickleball is at an all-time high. And I recently went and I tried out a game, played with my wife, my parents, and I had a really good time.
Did you go to the senior center?
Let's just say we were the youngest ones. We were definitely the youngest ones, but I had a really good time. I think it's very fun. It's going to give you a lower barrier of entry than
all right, here he goes. He's evangelizing again. But before you do, please, I needed to be told this morning what pickleball was. It's a thing I've heard. I thought it was like squash. Probably just the vegetable connotation.
Yeah, the next time that you're in a deli, if you ever are given 3 pickles in your sandwich box, you instantly are transported to a magical world in which you play a game. Real answer is, it's very similar to a tennis or a ping pong or a racquetball. It kind of has all elements, and it's on a smaller court, playing with a wiffle ball and like a graphite or a carbon fiber paddle that
they make race cars out of that, don't they? Carbon fiber.
Absolutely.
Serious business.
And you feel like a race car driver when you're playing, going 2 miles an hour, but that's okay.
Yeah. I bet you look like a race car driver too. Yeah.
It made me, it's one of those things, like if you look in the mirror, you see something else, but at the time you kind of feel like Superman. But I was really enjoying myself, to say the least.
You have that glow about you,
The pickle glow?
The pickle glow.
That's
you got that salty sheen.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You can use a pickle as a light bulb.
That's not a real
I thought that's
thing.
a potato.
Yeah.
No, potato will produce electricity, but if you run electricity through a pickle, it glows. So you have the pickle glow.
Really?
Yeah.
So I can take my fan that's in my room currently, and if I plugged in an extension cord with a pickle at the end, we'd be okay.
I think you and I are still confused with the idea of the difference between conducting and producing light. I think Don is telling us the pickle will produce light. You could put that in your closet, and you could pull a potato, and it will cause the pickle.
It probably would take more than one potato to make the pickle short out, but just
they're cheap. I can get a bunch of them
for insurance purposes. We need to make sure. Please don't try this at home. Look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, find Mr. Beast, who's probably already done this. He'll sell you the pickle.
I have it on my new burgers. I'm aware of that. I just like the image of thinking of several extension cords, outlets, and daisy chains that are like led with a bunch of pickles that are in the middle of them. Mm-hmm. I just like the image a lot, to say the least. But that's all right.
So Ron, you've never partaken of?
I've never partaken in a pickleball. Doug wants me to pickleball. I'm open to the idea of pickleball, but we've been here now for maybe 2 hours, and you've brought pickleball up to 5 different people probably, and to mixed reception. So this is why I'm wondering, is pickleball, are you in this for real, or are you writing, which is sometimes a thing you do, Doug. Sometimes you get caught up in the excitement of a beautiful day and an exciting idea. I'm
the type of guy that if you're going to give me some kind of new physical activity, I'm very interested in potentially trying it. So
does that mean you're down with jujitsu?
No.
Is pickleball better?
No. Nothing tops the jujitsu. It's going to be too tough to get that out of the top spot. But there's not a ton. It's an easier sell, I guess I would say. Hey, come on in. Mind if I try to break your leg versus would you like to break your own legs? Do
you want to feel completely demasculated by me?
So jiu-jitsu is part of how you identify yourself. Would you say that? Is that fair?
It's definitely not on the driver's license, but no.
As opposed to pickleball is what I'm trying to pickleball might be something you do for a couple weeks and then
I don't know. I mean, I think that's the reason that I'm grasping at the straws here right now, going, who wants to play with me? Because I want to keep it going.
Yeah.
But
you're going to start wearing the headband to work. And
oh yeah. If I look like McEnroe by the end of this summer, yeah, I'll be very happy. To
the
say
McEnroe of pickleball.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, he's playing
McEnroe's
now.
the McEnroe.
I was going to say he's actually playing and still yelling at everyone. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it is cool then. It's got real people.
It definitely has real people. I don't think that we can say that it's cool. I don't think it's necessarily something you say that's cool, but I really enjoyed it.
But does a thing need to be cool for you to have fun?
No, definitely not.
Of course not. Dungeons and Dragons.
I was going to say, come on, Dungeons and Dragons over there.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that.
Yeah,
I'm the coolest drow to ever walk the broken lands, whatever it's called.
That's right. I mean, my black metal, sometimes I look at the statistics on the black metal albums that I listen to, and it's like, you're one of 1,000 people in the world listening to this. And I'm like, that tells you everything.
Yeah,
right
you
there.
ever seen someone who writes for a metal magazine and then they pivot to video or something? You're like, that's what this guy, everyone who writes for metal is like the bookish, most accountant looking dude who happens to wear a black t-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you don't think pickleball, does it have staying power? Is it just something is it just having a moment in society right now and it's going to peak in popularity and then will fade off and I don't know, it'll be tetherball next? Or
I feel that there are enough people running around that it kind of feels like it's at its peak at the moment because so many, we went to a location that got rid of a set of tennis courts. I'm sure the tennis community hates pickleball. But yeah, I'm seeing that they're converting areas of tennis centers into pickleball courts. So I'm imagining that it's growing right now. It's going to have its heyday and then begin to fall. Mm-hmm.
It's just a fad.
Yeah, it might be. Although, the person who gave us our kind of introduction said it's been around since, I think, 65. It's been around since 1965.
Oh, okay.
So why
it's a long fad, Don.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know why.
Just because something exists doesn't mean that it's popular.
Correct.
The fad comes from the momentary popularity.
Yeah, Nintendo was a playing card company up until, Nintendo Entertainment System and then Mario.
Yeah. Well, because I wanted to to segue from our pickleball conversation or diatribe, what I wanted to ask you guys actually about fads and about growing up and your experiences of what looking back at it now, what fads were you involved in or did you notice when you were growing up and maybe you weren't involved in, but what
none. Always just cool. Yes, I've always marched to the beat of my own drum.
You're the leader, not the follower.
Yeah, I'm a trendsetter, they call me, actually.
It's kind of true. If you think about the Warhammer obsession, it's there's nobody into this. I'm in. I'll take it. Yeah, that's it. Painting these miniatures? Definitely. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, I tend to just lead people off of cliffs. No, there's got to be a score of fads. The first one, this is the fad of our generation, I think, Doug, which is the Pokémon.
Yeah, pocket monsters. Absolutely,
Pokémon. Yeah, Pokemon was big.
Pokemon's still big, baby.
Pokemon is huge. So is it a fad if it never really went away? It had its fad. It had its waves.
Yeah,
right. The fact that I was very into a self-identified Pokemaniac when I was in third grade or whenever that came out.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm not now tells me I participated in a fad, right?
Yeah. I got in trouble in fourth grade. I had my collection of cards and laminated sleeves inside of a 3-ring binder. They had just been banned from school. So a group of guys, we would always meet, we'd fly to just outside of school grounds, so we could start trading.
International waters.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Why were they banned at school?
So many kids
from learning.
Yeah, were
and they were pornographic. Kids were drawing things on those sand shrews.
Didn't experience any of that. I'm curious what your school did, but No, I remember going out to recess. We had kids whose cards were stolen. We had parents who were calling the schools saying, my kid's cards, A, B, and C. I don't want this kid trading cards with this kid because he did this, and this, and took advantage of him. I remember that being a thing. And so we got
this kid's a card shark.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But the credit you had when you had a Charizard.
I stole my friend's Charizard.
See,
he was moving. This is perfect heist, by the way.
Does he know, or this is like revealing to the world?
This is confession.
This kid does not know. I don't think. Yeah. His family was moving states, and like I went in the chaos of a move.
Yeah,
and I found his Pokemon and I took his Charizard. That's the power of a fad, baby.
Yeah, you're willing to commit crimes and sins.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's vicious. I also got duped during the Pokemon era. Do either of you know what a GameShark is?
Oh, yeah.
Don, you familiar with this?
No, it sounds like a gaming system.
It's close. So I'm sure we're familiar with the original Game Boy. There was something that came out called a GameShark, in which you could plug in a cartridge holder into the already cartridge holder that's on a Game Boy, right? But it's like this modification chip. And then you place your game into the chip inside of the card. It's like it hacks your cartridge essentially. And you could do different things to your games. You could modify what is happening within them. It pulls up a menu and it lets you do different things. So one of the ways you could access one of the Pokemon and I don't remember if I was using it to like get extra items. It's been long enough, but I think it was the only way that you could get a certain Pokemon. I think you could get Mew if you only went to the side of the island you had a GameShark. The point of the story is, after I had hacked it, had a buddy at school who said, "Can I borrow that?" I said, "Sure." Absolutely. Everybody wants this. I'd be happy to do that. So a few weeks go by. Hey, can I get that GameShark back? I want to make sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'll bring it to school. 2 months go by and I'm like, what's going to happen? And so I eventually tell him, because this is third grade. This is either third grade or fourth grade. And I remember telling him, I'm going to need that back tomorrow. My mom said she's going to come to school if I don't get it back. And he goes, okay, I'll bring it. And so we get to school. I see him. He's got it in his hands. He gives it to me and then quickly goes, sorry, and runs away. And sure enough, it had been dropped on the ground and broken. No. And the shame of the kid at that moment. And the funniest and most disgusting part of this is I remember, as if it were like, the mafia had assassinated somebody within my family, I dropped to my knees and held my arms toward the sky in dramatic fashion and just like let out this huge scream, like just so upset that my GameShark got destroyed, because I'd saved up so much allowance for that.
And that's why they banned it, Don.
Yeah.
Because children.
Look at this fad.
Yeah.
This fad. Yeah, I mean, like, why am I holding my arms up like I'm Willem Dafoe in Platoon? That's not good. Yeah.
I think you can find a lot of fads based on things that were banned in school that I remember getting banned. So I remember tech decks, the little miniature finger skateboards; those were all banned. Crazy Bones, remember Crazy Bones?
Crazy Bones,
which were little tiny pieces of plastic shaped like weed cartoons from the side of a vape shop, and then you would flick them. It was just jacks, right?
Yep.
You just flick them. What were your fads, Don?
Well, speaking of things that should have been banned, I wish fidget spinners had been banned a couple years ago. Everybody had those, but yeah. But thinking back to my childhood, like I've had a hard time answering this question for myself because I feel like I can notice fads in other people, but I kind of like, it's hard because you do feel like, I know you're joking, Ron, but I like you did at the beginning, where everything that I do is for a reason. I'm not just doing it because everybody is doing it, but I think there was a fashion fad when I was in high school where we would take our jeans and we would roll them up on the bottom, but you had to peg it so it was tight to your ankle. I did that because that's what everybody was doing, but that was the fashion. So I don't know. It seems like a fad because it's not done anymore, but I bet you it's going to start happening again because their students are starting to roll their pants up. But
it's weird with fashion because it's so cyclical. Like, when my kids are watching Stranger Things and then showing up like, I look like this. And it's like, which was made in the 80s, and you're basically copying 80s fashion in some way. Like I've seen a lot of the makeup that's being done right now looks very like Susie Sue's from Susie and the Banshees, which I think is really cool because it's like such a like distinct and like artistic interpretation. But I have literally told kids like, "Oh, the Susie Sue's," and they're like, "What?"
I love that dessert. Yeah, old man.
Hey, old guy, get out of here. But yeah, so it's hard with fashion because, and then maybe. I mean, I guess that doesn't disqualify it from being a fad, even if it comes back. Right?
Well, I mean, people laugh looking at your pictures of your old haircuts and, you know, who had a mullet and who had a crew cut and all that.
Mullets are back.
Okay, that's a fad. The spiked hair, gel, chipmunk look was like a thing I definitely had where like the spikes are way too, you know, they're not like cool enough to, they're not long enough to be punk, but they're like longer than like you could wear in an office job.
Did you ever do bleach tips?
No, I never bleached my tips.
Oh, I did that.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. My 6th grade, actually, my whole 6th grade photo, or it's either 5th or 6th grade photo is a fad. I'm doing the Rock's eyebrow. I'm doing the Rock's like in a signature eyebrow that he would do on WWF at the time. I've got the bleach tips, and then I'm wearing. Oh, does Anchor Blue even exist anymore?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that store?
Yeah.
I had like the shiny shirts from the early 2000s. That was a thing.
The coolest place you could get a shirt when I was in middle school was Tilly's.
It's that vibe. Yeah, Anchor Blue is kind of like Tilly's. Yeah.
Listening to you describe Pokemon, it reminded me, I had forgotten, there was a fad when I was in 4th grade. And it's going to make me sound like I'm older than I am because when we did this, it was retro already. But we played marbles at recess, and it was a big, like, you had to get the cat's eye was the premium marble, and you had a shooter, and you had a
Oh yeah.
But when my mom got worried when we started collecting marbles and playing at recess and stuff, because we were playing like high stakes, like you would lose marbles and things. Because my brother, who's significantly older than I am. I mean, he's not ancient, but he's when I was in 6th grade, he would have been about twice my age. Had been suspended from school for playing marbles. They suspended him for gambling.
And so your mom's like, "Oh no, it's coming back. It's awakening in him.
It's a plague."
Yeah.
Right.
Which that immediately brings up Pogs. That was like the thing of like when I was in.
I missed Pogs. I didn't. I never saw a Pog in my life until I started watching Simpsons and like
that
Pog
was
joke.
I think that's the most brilliant of all the marketing because it's just the cheapest printed materials you can possibly imagine. And same thing as well as play for keeps. Are we playing for keeps? And then you got a reputation if you didn't play for keeps because it's like, oh, you wuss, can't believe it.
He values his property.
That's lame. Yeah,
Beanie Babies, right? A lot of these like kind of cheaper kids things, but we got way into the Beanie Babies, collecting those when we were on road trips and stuff.
Yeah, my dad had hundreds of Beanie Babies. Like he would be up late at night on the computer shopping. That was his pastime.
Right? Yeah. Did it kind of coincide with like the beginning of eBay or something? Was it one of those like first item commodities?
Early eBay was fun. Isn't how do you not get into fads? I feel.
Well, I think let's take a look because I have a story that I want to share with you all and see if we can figure out what's going on here. So we need to go back in time.
Okay,
we're gonna go back to 1518.
Always way back with you, Don.
I know.
The rest of us, we're over here talking about stuff from the 80s. That's our ancient
times. 1989.
Yeah.
So 1518 is the year. We're in the city of Strasbourg.
Strasbourg, that's in Austria?
Today it's in France.
Oh.
Yeah.
A lot of borders shifted in that part of the world.
It is. It's
wars come. It's
in an area called Alsace, and but back then it wouldn't have been France. It was the Holy Roman Empire. So it's a weird space though. It's almost Germany. Like you can take a 15-minute tram ride today to get to Germany. It is kind of in that eastern area, and so in 1518, German is the language. So there's mid-July, in 1518, a lady named Frau Chauffeur goes outside one day and starts dancing.
Fun. Nice.
Yeah.
You trying to tell me that dancing's a fad?
Well, I'm...
Did she invent dancing?
Yeah.
Is this the beginning of dance?
Yeah.
Dancing has existed, but she's out there. She steps into the cobbled street right outside her house, and she just starts moving. There's no music. She's not singing. She just is moving. And the description of her dance was that it was neither graceful nor joyful.
Oh,
sounds like me when I dance.
So her body seems to be seized by an invisible force.
I like that.
Compelling her to dance with this unending fervor. And she doesn't stop. The sun sets.
For an hour?
The sun
2 hours?
sets.
3 hours?
She dances all night. The next day, the sun comes up. She's still outside her house dancing. And so people start to gather. They start to look around and they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? She's having trouble breathing. Her shoes are clunking on the cobblestones. Everybody is first kind of curious, right? Like, this is a strange thing, but then they realize she can't stop. She's dancing and she can't stop. So they just watch her for about a week.
A week?
A week.
Okay. Okay, pause.
This is a
Pause.
fable.
All right.
We don't do fables on this podcast, Don.
Yeah,
we do hard science. We do Bigfoot and missing children in Yosemite.
Yeah. And let's just say that this region of France, the worst neighbors ever. Like, oh, she's still over there dancing. Let's not try to help her. Because, I mean, at this point, get two people to restrain her and she stops, right?
No. She
fighting people off
to move even when people tried to grab her.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we've at least made an attempt. I just thought these people.
So
were
are we
awful.
using the word dance sort of liberally?
Yeah.
So sort of like, do we just mean she is convulsing?
Well, she's
on 2 feet.
She seems to be upright. So we'll come back to what could be happening, and convulsions is a possibility, right? But she doesn't lose her ability to maintain her balance, which raises an eyebrow about whether or not it's just convulsion. But here's where it takes a turn. After about a week of dancing all by herself outside, all of a sudden somebody else joins her.
No.
And they start dancing.
Yeah.
No. About a dozen people start joining her. No. And they start dancing and they can't stop. They don't seem to be having a good time. So there's no music.
It's like a white person's wedding. One person starts and slowly others aggregate, but it's never that.
Yeah.
They start complaining. They start crying. Their feet are bleeding. They start begging onlookers for help.
Tell the DJ to go home.
There's no DJ. Now, here's the problem, Don. You asked us about fads.
Yeah.
But when I was playing Pogs, we didn't talk about Tamagotchis. Another band. I guess that's what defines a fad, is whatever gets banned at a school. When I was taking out my Tamagotchi to feed it, when I was looking through my Pokemon cards, I'm not crying, I'm not screaming, I'm not standing in the middle with my Pokemon going, I can't stop trading these things. Right. Somebody help me.
You could have stopped at any time. You would have put your Tamagotchi down and just let it die.
No,
eventually I did.
My mom took me out of school so I could watch my Tamagotchi die.
That's true.
That's
beauty in motherhood.
You're trying to tell me that Tamagotchi wasn't real? I will not buy that. Yeah. So, you're right. I guess your point taken, Don. There is there's a compulsion, like telling me as an 8-year-old or however, whenever this was, to stop playing Pokemon. I don't know if I could have. You're right, maybe. But again, to Doug's point, I'm being very neutral this episode.
Thank you. Finally.
1 point to Doug because he wasn't in pain when he was playing Pokemon.
Well,
if we try to take those Pokemon away, I bet you he would have been.
Yeah. But they're engaging this compulsive act of... Thanks. It's my pickleball point. I'll serve now. This is... I'm going to let you finish. But I think... I am not convinced exactly yet because like
you're not convinced that they're dancing. What are you not convinced of?
He thinks you're hoaxing us somehow.
Yeah, it's like you tried to bring up fads in the beginning of this. We do this cute thing that you probably have caught on to where we start with like, here's a little question for you. Oh, a beautiful segue, and here we are saying.
People were in pain back in 1510.
Last time I gave you a conspiracy theory. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And to be fair, I mean, things generally, when you think of things being medieval, I think we use that adjective now to say like it was painful, dreary, awful in some ways. So maybe dancing did start awful.
So I will continue the story, but I will tell you that what I have told you so far is well documented, like multiple sources corroborating what I have told you so far.
I didn't doubt the historicity of this. I just
he just doubts your intentions
for sure. Doubts my integrity. That's fine.
That's why I come every week.
So within a month, there's 400 people dancing uncontrollably in the streets.
All in this one town.
All in this one town.
Strasbourg.
The bodies are twisting and turning, and like I say, they're undergoing physical injury because they are dancing so much.
I'm stressed out.
So
400, you said?
400. Yeah.
Over the course of a month.
Mm-hmm. And town council tries to figure out what to do. All right. So they look for signs of supernatural intervention. Is this a possession? Is this, what they decide to do, their solution is they probably just need to dance it out. Right. Sure, we need to just let them get whatever is in their system out. So they build stages and they hire musicians to come in and play music so that the dancers can, finally reach the end of the dance, I guess. Or
Ron, when was the last time that you danced it out?
My wedding.
Yeah. Fully out though. It was done.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I can dance once every 7 years and I'm good.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Do you think that worked? Do you think they danced it out? Would that be the right solution? And somebody can't stop dancing, so you're going to play music for them?
It's more fun if they didn't. It's more fun if they did. So I'm hoping no.
Yeah. You're sadistic. Well, it doesn't work. They keep dancing despite the fact that the music is playing. They call doctors in, and they can't figure out what's going on. They start to be concerned then about demonic possession, and
of course,
and overheated blood is an option.
Hot blooded.
Mm-hmm. And finally, what they kind of decide is there's a saint called Saint Vitus.
Saint Vitus dance.
That's it.
What?
Is this what? Okay.
What are you?
This is a metal.
You're
thing.
all liking this thing, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Please let me like something, Ron.
I just want to be a part of it.
Negative points, Doug. It's my servant, man.
What do you know about Saint Vitus dance?
There is a metal band named Saint Vitus, and so I at least looked up the connotation of Saint Vitus dance as being what that came from, and I'm really hoping that we make some connections here because I just like Wino Heinrich's band, Saint Vitus. But if you're about to tell me this is where it comes from, I'm very excited.
It is where it comes from.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah. Saint Vitus was a saint from the early 4th century, I think, and was part of a group of Christian saints that in the Middle Ages were called the 14 Holy Helpers. And
cool band.
That's also a great band. Yeah.
The 14 Holy Helpers all had specific things that they were the patron of, right? So Vitus was who you would pray to for protection against epilepsy, protection against lightning, and protection from rabid animals. But
what connects those three?
I don't know. Convulsions, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But if you made Saint Vitus angry, the curse of Saint Vitus is that you would have to dance. So
do all the saints have a curse associated with them too?
A lot of them do, but
cool.
I don't know them. I know what they're patrons of, right? So
right,
but so they ask and consider whether or not Frau Trofea did something to anger the saint,
probably,
right? and receive this curse. So she is taken in the back of a cart, still dancing.
I was gonna say, gotta be still moving around a bit.
I think that the accounts say, I think that she was. It took 2 people to restrain her enough to hold her within the cart. But they take her to Saint Vitus's shrine, and they pray over her, and she stops dancing.
Love it.
Wow.
Love it.
Yeah.
So the credibility that I feel is being challenged is we're at 4-month count, correct?
Well, that's just when she stops. And I'm not sure when she went to the shrine. The plague went on until September, so July to September. About 3 months.
So 3 months.
And during that time, like I say, hundreds of people, up to 400 all at once at one point, and people started to die.
I was going to say, who's bringing them water? That was going to be my next.
Yeah, the reports say that up to 15 people a day are dropping dead from exhaustion and dehydration. And
St. Vitus is a rough guy.
Yeah, no joke.
So, but the patient 0 survives.
Patient 0 survives.
Identify her and they take her and pray over her. And does that end the bout for everyone? Do they all stop dancing, or can they take everyone to the shrine now?
Well, it seems to taper off after her resolution.
Okay,
because that's right. It takes about that much time for them to figure out what to do, yeah.
All right, and then do they interrogate her? Do they torture her? What's happening?
What did you do?
Yeah.
Does she speak at all about, oh, thank you, you saved me from the grips of, I'll never help that rabid rabbit again, or something?
Yeah. Like, just kind of timidly, have a good day, walks away.
I think we're lucky to know her name.
Yeah, true.
You know, like,
how do we know this, Dawn? Where's all this coming from?
So most of the records come from a physician named can't remember the
He doesn't know the name.
Hold on.
We caught him.
So the doctor's name is Paracelsus.
Paracelsus?
He's
the Paracelsus?
Not Celsius.
First name
Paracelsus is his last name.
Who am I thinking of? Paracelsus? Isn't that a Greek dude?
I don't know.
Isn't he like?
You could trick me.
That's a name I know. That's like one of the famous doctor people from olden days.
He maybe borrowed the name from somebody, but he's Swiss. And he's about 25 years old when this plague happens. Claims to fame for him. He is the first doctor to describe syphilis, and
that's why I know him. Okay,
and to prescribe mercury as the cure for syphilis. So mercury that it continues to be the treatment for syphilis through the 19th century. It's,
two known things to make one crazy. Yeah. I love that. Let's just add fuel to the fire. Yeah. So he's a great doctor.
I mean, for his time, he was. So yeah. So mostly his record is where a lot of it comes from, and he was opposed to a lot of the conventional thinking about what was happening. So that's why we have a lot of writing from him. Because he didn't think it was a good idea to play music for these people. He didn't think it was. He didn't think it was a supernatural cause. He actually, for as long ago as it was, he posited a lot of psychological explanations for what was happening, like suggesting that there was an emotional disturbance or something else going on that was contributing to this, even though psychology wasn't a thing, and he certainly didn't have that word in his vocabulary, but seems to be a good empath in terms of his bedside manner.
He just always seems like during the medieval and Renaissance era, all that it took to be a doctor was confidence.
Yeah.
Seems like you're ill in this way. Take these leeches. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, found some bugs. You want me to put them in your bed?
That's right.
So but he's not one of those. He's a good doctor.
I'm sure he used leeches. That was what they did.
You're allowed to use leeches. I'm not knocking anyone for using leeches when it was cool. Yeah, the leech fad. Yeah. He's the town doctor. Is he called in?
He's called in.
Okay, so he's like, we got to go to the big city. This is a movie. I can see this movie already.
Right.
We're in his office. He's in the Palace of Vienna, get a call. What? They're sending me to Strasbourg. What's in Strasbourg? Hard cut, people dancing and dying in the street.
It's the
cinematic,
the Electric Strasbourg Festival.
Yeah. The medieval version of house music just going.
Yeah. He's out there. It's like the scene in Jaws when they got to get all the people off the beach, and he's like, "We got to get these musicians off of these streets."
Crash zoom to like your face. No, get out of the water, Billy.
So what's going on is my question. So this is a thing that happened for sure. Like it's not a conspiracy like I led you guys with last time. Like this is definitely an actual historical event. It's documented. People died. What's going on?
So I'm drawn to think of diseases that make people mad.
Yeah, in my head I'm going some sort of microbial, right? Because like what were we? Lately, or in the zeitgeist again, is the Last of Us TV show and the video game series, and the idea that there are fungal nodes that can control your brain and zombify you, and that's partially based on a reality of like certain insect species can be infected by a fungus, right?
Yeah, that video.
So is that a fungus, Doug? Don?
Who do you want? Tell us who you want.
1 point each of you. If we can move on.
It's a possibility. It was examined as a possibility and remains a possibility that a fungus called ergot, which grows on grain, could have polluted the local food supply, and that would of course cause a mass hallucination that could manifest itself this way.
I got me the ergot again.
Right. Okay. So like hallucinations is like another element.
But for 2 months.
Was there like a
ergot? Well, if it was in the food, though, it would keep resupplying, right? If it was if we were all eating ergot bread, right, and like they were dancing so long, like how do they eat and drink? Like they have to have been eating and drinking while they're dancing. Like you're still not going to be able to like have enough nutrition, and right, but if they're going to keep refeeding the high every time they have a piece of bread, then it would last forever.
New image unlocked of. I'm sorry. Just people continuing to dance, tears just streaming down their face, but just shoveling bread in their mouth like, I can't stop. This bread's decent. Wait, it's back again. Oh, this is insanity.
Ergot poisoning is also on the list of possible suspects for the Salem witch trials.
Oh, there we go. I think we got it. It's in the ergot.
It's in the ergot.
Done and dusted. But I bet you got 5 other hot theories to send our way.
And I got 2 other hot theories.
Oh, that's close.
But I will tell you for ergot that this event in Strasbourg in 1518, it's not the only time this has happened.
This is what I was waiting for. Yes.
No, it struck again.
Yeah.
1962, the Beatles arrive in New York.
That's right. Ergot poisoning in New York in the Ed Sullivan Theater. It was in the popcorn. They were sprinkling it on top. No, actually, dancing plagues have been recorded as far back as the 11th century. The first one is 1017. This one has a legendary background. So the story for this one seems much stranger.
I'm excited.
So the story is in a town called Kolbig in Saxony on Christmas Eve. About 18 people gathered in a circle outside the church and started dancing. And they apparently were making so much noise and clapping and chanting that the priest couldn't do Christmas Mass inside the church. So he came out kind of upset, and he told them, shook his finger and said, "You better stop dancing." And they didn't.
Oh, no.
I know.
Never spied a priest.
And when the priest shook his fingers, he just kept the fingers going, staying alive, staying alive. No, they got him too.
So the priest, in all his Christian charity, cursed them.
Oh,
I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah, I think I think it's one of the lesser known powers.
Yeah.
You get eternal forgiveness, but you also can curse people.
It's an Orthodox thing.
He cursed them to dance for a whole year.
Oh,
and the story is they did. That they danced outside the church for a whole year until 1018, And on Christmas Day, they collapsed.
But scientific explanation is the Eucharist was probably filled with ergot.
Ergot, yes.
I don't know.
Ergot
Well, they didn't
Christ.
have it because they didn't even let him finish Mass. So they would have had it. Would have been Christmas ergot.
I'm
They
not
would have
sharing
had.
my Eucharist with those dirty dancers.
So that's the first record of a dancing plague. But again, that one has this legendary component to it because the story is they dance for a whole year without eating and drinking. And
But still, there's that religious connection, though, that ties them, right?
there is. But then again in 1188, this one's in Wales. Then in 1247 in Erfurt, Germany, and then 1278 in Belgium, and 1374 in the Rhineland, in 1418 in Switzerland.
I love this.
1463 in Trier, Germany.
And all of these are people dancing till they die?
Yep.
Or are we just calling any sustained...
It's a group of people dancing uncontrollably. They want to stop, but they cannot stop.
Wow.
They don't all have deaths involved with them, although in 1278 in Belgium, 200 people are involved, and they cross a bridge, and the bridge collapses.
Whoa!
And so there were some injuries there for sure. But so my point is that it happens from about the 11th century all the way through the 16th century. A good portion of them are along the Rhine River in Germany.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm sorry, go ahead, Ron.
I was just going to say, it all seems very German and Northern European.
Right.
So the techno craze of today, right? And that's continued on.
It's always been,
Right.
Autobahn has always been in that people's blood.
Whether you're at Berghain or you're on the Rhine.
We got to stop all the people on the river cruises. We got to get them off those cruises.
Get them out of there. So, yeah, I mean, because my next question was going to be, like, when does this wheat crop die out? Because, like, ergot poisoning, you said this earlier, correct? Like, this is still a possible thing?
It's on the list of possibilities for what's going on.
So, but I think we cut you off when you were making the Rhine connection. Is the Rhine, I'm assuming that's adjacent farmland where they grow the wheat that can contain the ergot?
That would be, part of the question would be if it's reoccurring, and if it is ergot, then is it being spread through the waterway? And that,
right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Baby.
So that's a possibility, but it doesn't seem to be the most likely because it ends. So if it were ergot, it would continue, and it doesn't.
So is when's our most recent outbreak of this plague?
The most documented one is 1518. There's two after it in the 16th century. So like 1574 is the most recently documented version, and then it stops.
Okay,
we haven't had one since. Cross our fingers. Knock on wood.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think we just do this to ourselves now at raves, right? I mean, like.
Yeah, we just call
Doug,
it
you start dancing every time we play our theme song. So
this is 100%. When we get those video, right, the behind the scenes, absolutely. It was when I saw Doug do the trill on the drums that I knew we had something special. I mean, but yeah, I'm thinking of like, raves today, and then like the connection of like how many people are on psychedelics, because like I think I attended Electric Daisy Carnival in 2011, and unfortunately, like that was the most I've seen people like wheeled out on stretchers that are like convulsing and having seizures. My guess is because of dirty drugs, just because like I've been at other gigantic festivals where people have passed out from heat exhaustion, but like it seemed like everybody who was leaving was like seizing, and so it is interesting.
Were they eating the bread?
This is the thing, or the bread of life.
They always say, bring your own bread to those festivals.
BYOB in so many different ways. Yeah.
So ergot's a possibility, but like I say, because it dies out, that like biologically, that's not how that would happen. It would take hold. So it could be Saint Vitus.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. I forgot about him. He's not a metal band, or he is a metal band.
He's the metal band. Coming all the way thousands of years later, started a band. So I was going to ask you if any of these have other connections to St. Vitus. Like, did anyone else get the idea we need to take them to the shrine?
Yes.
This Vitus is an interesting fellow. Why am I only now hearing about St. Vitus? I feel like if he was the guy in charge of a series of dancing plagues over the course of hundreds of years, and when you pray to him, he actually causes you to stop dancing, I would know him more than St. Francis of Assisi.
It's because you don't dance.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
right.
You're right.
I knew him right away.
Damn,
Did you
I've been
pick that
missing
up?
out.
Mm-hmm. Very disappointing in
But
you.
you asked earlier, Doug, if there was any connection between the metal band and the Saint. And I know about the Saint. I don't know about the metal band. So is there a connection? Is there?
So what's interesting, I would say not really, other than I could see them being into the idea of the dancing plague. Like they were signed to SST Records, which is famously the label that signed Black Flag and the Minutemen, and it's like they're kind of like a punk rock label. But Wino Heinrich's band was they were specifically signed to this as well, and they had like a very slow metal sludgy sound, like a little bit more in the style of like Black Sabbath, like if you can imagine that. And so they had like a very cool kind of difference. I think the album that I had from them was Born Too Late. I think that was the release. Let me fact check that as you go on. But yeah, I don't. Nothing direct. Yeah, they didn't state anything.
So he, as far as I know, St. Vitus was never signed to a label.
Oh, well,
yeah,
we should get him on there.
But I don't know. I don't know how the connection was made between his story and dancing. I know that he is connected to the dancing plagues. But
it might just be that, like you said, the convulsion thing, right? Like he seems to.
It could be, but like, his story doesn't include any. So he just
his like actual story.
Yeah, his actual story. He's a Sicilian senator around 300 AD. He's persecuted by Diocletian, so he's part of the famous Diocletian Christian persecution, which we talked about in my last episode.
Definitely.
And was put to death. He survived a bunch of tortures. That's part of what made him a saint. And they eventually just cut his head off. So, wow. Yeah. Yeah, well, they boiled him alive.
Was a lot of the
but he survived
again,
but he survived that. So then they had to cut his head off.
Oh,
yeah. But again, I don't know how we get from that.
How did we miss him in the boiling episode?
Don, are you drawn to this or something?
Yeah.
Is that your greatest?
We're not trying to find links between dancing plagues. We're trying to find links between Don's psyche and boiling people.
At the end of this podcast, we'll really find ourselves.
Is the sanctification process? I'm assuming a lot of these were canonized around the same time or something, right? And so were they just sort of handing out roles? And sometimes they fit thematically, and other times they're like, well, we need a rabid animals guy. So sorry, Vitus, that's you.
The formal canonization is actually a relatively recent phenomenon. So saints prior to that were more became saints by everyone just agreeing to
sort of folkloric.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I need to retcon really quick. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It wasn't SST, was it?
It was SST. I've been saying Wino Heinrich. It was Weinrich. Hence, he's very affectionately known as just Wino. Like people will just call him Wino. And I knew there was an Heinrich in there. And Heinrich, of course, being the most comic of all. Not comic.
Yeah.
Not making fun of
I always
that
laugh
guy.
at the Heinrichs. Yeah. So what do you do?
How could you? How could
Change
you?
your name already, buddy.
Wow. Wino's going to come after you. Absolutely. So,
well, his name's not Heinrich, so he's got nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Forgive me for derailing like I always do.
Sure. So do we think that it's supernatural, the St. Vitus cursing our dancers, and that's the real explanation of what's going on?
It sounds cool.
I was going to say, I'd love it to be. I'd love it to be. Wouldn't it be fun if that's in our universe?
I can't believe, though.
It's too hard.
Yeah, you want to believe, and I can't believe.
I'll always be
this is the role we need to
Fox
adopt.
Mulder of the group.
And I'll be the Scully drugger. What's her name?
Are you thinking that because it's like Skull Drugger? Yeah. Oh my god.
Anyways, but this would be like a really big deal for believer types, people who want to prove the material capabilities of the supernatural and the saints, right? So is this brought up a lot of times in those sorts of discourses? Or
I don't think it is, because it's not if it is evidence of a saint's interaction, it's not a good one.
Oh,
right. It's a saint causing people to die because they dance.
Oh,
too
but
much.
then he fixed it, right?
Well, at least for one.
Yeah. Okay, so all right, maybe Vitus is there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of a third, and I'm wondering, like, okay, we've kind of got the biological covered in the ergot, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got the supernatural with Vitus. Mm-hmm. Is there a sociological kind of angle here, right? Does Frau Trophea is there some reason she believes she has to dance, right? Like, does she not believe she has full possession of herself?
Would that mean that the people who saw her dancing go, I guess I'll just start too? Like, I think trouble with
that could happen. I feel
till you die.
I think people I think we don't give enough
credit to people dying dancing.
I don't think we give enough credit to the power of belief. Like, if people believe a thing, it's very hard for them sometimes, I think, to cut out that belief. If they're like you said, you drew a different kind of connection, I think, to the Salem witch trials. But I feel like that's a similar kind of thing. Like, even if you are being accused of being a witch, that doesn't mean you don't believe witches don't exist, right? You don't think you're a witch. But maybe, aren't there instances of people being like, oh, wow, maybe I am a witch? Like,
and then adopting the persona.
Right, yes.
Yeah. There are recorded stories of that, although sometimes that was a self-defense.
Right.
Yeah. Right. It's a way to explain why you live in the forest by yourself with the herbs. It was a way to explain your existence. But I think you're onto something, Ron, because we do have documentation of other instances where groups of people have believed something so firmly that they just start doing things or believing it. Like a cult is a good example.
Yeah. All of the cults. Take your pick.
Right. Do you guys is there a word for it that you are familiar with? Maybe of like a belief in something that might not have a physical reason, but it manifests itself physically because you believe it so firmly?
I want to.
You want to have a word for it?
Can I manifest this word in my mind? I feel like you're going to say it. I'm going to be like, yeah, of course. But maybe that's also just me trying to act like I'm smarter than I am.
I think of what was often used against women for their behavior, to be hysterical.
Do you know what hysteria is?
I don't. I just know that it was used at one point against women. Like, you're being hysterical, therefore we need to treat you in this way.
And that's the word I was looking for. And
I know hysterical.
Yeah, I want to talk about hysteria, but one of the and we'll come back to hysteria, but one of the necessary components of a mass hysteria, so to convince a group of people, is that there's a increase of stress and pressure on the local society or the local culture. In 1518, we are coming out of a recent bubonic plague.
Yep.
We are experiencing several different famines. So going back 20 years, but the year 1518 especially was a bad famine, poor harvests, high grain prices. Obviously, money is scarce always. So we have all of these things compounding on top of each other, and then we have this plague breakout of dancing. Right. So that's a possibility, is that because of the increase of cultural pressure, societal pressure, economic pressure, that people are like primed to believe that there's something wrong. Right? Why are we having these famines? And in 1518, what would be the explanation? Why can't the crops grow? Why can't?
Okay, so you're saying, is there sort of like a doomer mentality, an apocalyptic mentality? Is there a connection here to the medieval dance macabre, like the artistry, the images of dancing skeletons, and the idea that like death is a joyful, congratulatory, sort of exuberant presence?
I don't know that there's a direct connection to it, but there always was this the desire to remember that death was around the corner.
Yeah.
Right. But if the crops won't grow, what's the reason in 1518?
Oh, because
Right, because God hates us. Right? In 1518, if it's and why would God be mad at us?
Because we've strayed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so and we don't know very much about this, but it's possible that Frau Trofea went out and did lose control of her body because she firmly believed that she or the town were being punished by Saint Vitus, or God through Saint Vitus, to do this terrible thing as a penance for whatever sin the town had sunk into.
Right. That there's a lot of those kinds of cases, right, of individuals who, there's a term for them too. Is it zealot? Is it zealot the same thing, right? Or they just sort of like, I am not a member of the clergy, but I have a very strong opinion about the way things are going, and I need to take action and lead a movement of people to change the world, or God is speaking through me. Right. In specific.
And in 1518, you wouldn't need to be a zealot because everybody would have that firmly held belief. Like now we have a much larger diversity of beliefs. In 1518, there's less of that in Western Europe.
Sure.
So it's so people are primed to believe whatever they're told, and if they're told that if you sin, Saint Vitus will punish you.
Yep.
Yeah. Guess what happens when they realize that sin must be happening? Because you got all these other right. We have no food. We have no money. We have we're all malnourished. So we're like primed for this belief that we're ready to have a plague, I guess, and we have to dance till we die.
The conditions in which people say it's the fall of the empire.
Right.
Yeah.
But like you said, Doug, it's hard for me to imagine believing something so firmly that I would dance until I literally drop dead.
Right.
Or do anything until I drop dead.
Although if life is so poor, and conditionally, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think there's something to what you just said about the paucity of belief systems at the time, right? Which is like when there is a very hegemonic, dominant belief system, the way that Catholicism or Christianity at large was in Europe at the time. I think that's usually what I have the hardest time, and why I'm continually fascinated with the medieval period, is because I think that's the thing that, in a lot of ways, I don't think we're that different from those people, but that is the one thing I think that is like, I have a hard time understanding or setting myself in the shoes of people at that time, is having such a dominant universal belief system that affects every moment of your daily existence, right? And
universal culture.
Yeah. Which is just not something that has been the case.
No.
It's not even like a 2020s thing. It's just like, it hasn't been the case probably since, I don't know, 1700s or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So coming back to the word hysteria, though, because Doug, you mentioned that it has a negative connotation, and it does, because it has historically been used to describe ailments specifically of females. Do you know where the word comes from? Do you have any etymological knowledge of the word hysteria?
There's a pre-hysteria, which is
that's when the dinosaurs lived.
Hysteria, I'll go out on a limb here and say it sounds like the name of a god.
No.
Okay.
Good guess, though.
Thanks for playing. Have a great day, everybody. This has been the Uncanny End.
Minus 5 points to Doug.
Yeah. Wow. You can only rise so high before you fall so low.
You're about to drop that pickle.
Yeah.
So get back in the court.
It's all right. It's lit up so I can see it at night.
Hystera is the Greek word for uterus.
Right, because the
I'm feeling a little
so hysterectomy is the removal of uterus. So
I'm feeling a little bit better that at least I was close with Greek. I mean, I was thinking like a Greek god.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. We know.
Yeah.
Minus 2.5.
It's fine.
So first described by Hippocrates, the Hippocratic Oath guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
another famous physician.
The famous physician, the father of medicine, around the 5th century BC. And he believed that hysteria was a specifically female disorder that was caused by disturbances of the uterus. And he believed that the uterus was an independent creature that lived inside a woman's body. And that hysteria would be caused when it started to roam around the body, seeking moisture, apparently.
That happened to my brother.
Really, his uterus started roaming around.
It's like I had a twin, and
it just went wild.
He never came out.
So for Hippocrates, like the symptoms were like almost anything that was wrong with a female, he could define or diagnose as hysteria. So suffocation, anxiety, fatigue, a sense of choking, all of these were believed to be caused in women because their uterus was wandering around.
Wow.
And so how would you treat that? You got to coax the uterus back to its home. Yeah.
Okay.
So
leave a carrot kind of thing.
Kinda like, so the Hippocratic solution is to put sweet smelling herbs near the female private parts and foul smelling herbs up by the mouth.
Oh,
so that way
push it out. Yeah. Smoke it out.
Exactly. Yeah. Get it back in its home.
How nice for the female.
So, so it's for that reason that the word has this negative connotation, because it was used since ancient Greek times all the way through the 19th century, specifically to refer to any mental concern that was afflicting a female. And it was believed to be a physical ailment all the way through the 19th century. It wasn't until Freud got around, and Freud is the one who recognized that it wasn't a physical ailment; it was a psychological one.
Wow!
And so he moved the medicine forward a little bit. And now today, hysteria is not a medical diagnosis. It's we use it in common parlance to refer to any type of
craze.
Yeah, like your emotion, you're unable to regulate your emotions. As we would say, you're hysterical. But again, it carries that negative connotation of being attached to female elements. So you're, so for the most part, it's not well used. However, when you talk about groups of people, we do still sometimes use it as a way to describe why a group of people decides together to do something.
Mass hysteria.
You've caused mass hysteria.
Right. So there's modern examples of this that exist. So some people think, for example, like alien abductions. If one person reports that they've been abducted by an alien, especially in a certain area, or even alien sightings, all of a sudden there will be a cluster of those that occur around the same.
And they're always similar, right? You're reporting on the same thing you heard someone else report on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And probably in a broader sense, I don't know if you guys know about, like in the 1980s, 1990s, there was a social panic in the United States about the rise of Satanism.
Yeah, it's deeply tied to D&D lore,
right?
The history of it.
Satanic panic.
That's right, and it rooted in very few, like in like couple survivor stories of, people who claim to have been abducted by a satanic cult and then escaped from them. But based on just a few stories, all of a sudden more and more experiences were, imagined by the public, and everyone had to be on guard against, this elusive Satanism that was rising. There's even suggestion of, in a smaller sense, that have you ever heard of the phenomenon of a recovered memory?
Yeah. It's like something you quote unquote experienced but never knew you experienced until someone puts you. Is it usually hypnosis or something like that?
So there's several different techniques, that guided imagery or hypnosis or just talk therapy, where a therapist can help someone who has experienced a past trauma sort of resurface memory. So the idea is that those memories have been repressed. The idea has been posited by Elaine Showalter, who's a famous literary critic and academic who's studied hysteria specifically. That some of those recovered memories, people have recovered memories of abuse. They've accused their parents of abuse. A parent actually went to jail, and then it was discovered that the memory that his daughter was having was completely fabricated. And implanted. And I don't know if it was implanted on purpose or even, it seems like it would be very easy to accidentally implant a memory like that as well. So if someone were suggestible to that. So that's a type of hysteria too, where that would be on a much smaller basis, not a mass hysteria, but it's an idea that you're implanting the belief in somebody and then it manifests itself in the real world.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So can you guys think of any other occasions when that has happened? Like when a firmly held belief by an individual or a group of people has led to the manifestation of physical outcomes?
I think of cult-like behavior. Like I think of anybody who's like leading a cult, and then there's like a mass kind of physical response to spiritual awakening. I would look at that potentially as hysteric behavior.
Yeah, who are the spacefaring? Is it Heaven's Gate? The spacefaring ones.
Heaven's Gate's the one with Hail Bob Comet.
Yeah. Those like you can. I think this is, to me also. There's similar to the dancing plague. It seems like there's an era of this kind of cult in America that also dies out, right? Like, I mean, I guess we just had there was Nexion. Is that what it was called? There was like a recent cult, right? Or like where there were some famous celebrities who were caught up in it. And this is like 4 years ago or something. But it was like, to me, like the resurgence of this kind of very sort of uniquely American cult, which is usually some sort of religious figure gathers people into a compound and they hang out and they have beliefs that usually turn violent, and it, investigations reveal that there is, all sorts of layers and layers of ritual abuse and exploitation by the cult leaders of the people who are pulled into this system. And those seem to kind of start with like the Marilyn Manson thing in the 60s, 70s, right? And then they kind of die.
Marilyn Manson is not the 60s, 70s. Charles Manson?
Charles Manson. You know what I mean. I'm vibing here. I'm vibing. I ain't facts. Going all the way up until like the 90s. And then like the last big one I can remember is like Waco. And I think Nexion again, if I'm even getting this. Nexium. I don't know if I'm getting this. Could be a
Heaven's Gate was after Waco,
but yeah, Heaven, you're right. But again, like it's localized, like
right.
But you're bringing up some important points. So Showalter points out a few things about hysteria, and one of the required components is an authority figure that is sort of directing the belief. And so, in the case of our dancing plague 1518, that would be the church and the belief that Saint Vitus is going to curse you if you sin. In the case of the cults you're bringing up, right, it's obviously the cult leader, but there's also political beliefs. So if you think about what we're talking about, like, and regardless of which side of the political spectrum you're on, like the way that our leaders tell the stories, and that's another component Showalter brings up, is that there has to be a narrative that is attached to this belief. It's not just a belief that comes out of nowhere. It's attached to a story about usually in political spectrum, it's the other side, right? The other side is doing this terrible thing. Therefore, our response has to be, firmly held and firmly believed, and there's no compromise. But in the case of the dancing plague of 1518, the same thing. Like the story is that if you don't do what Saint Vitus wants, or if you don't do what God wants, that Saint Vitus will curse you. Like that story exists, which then, because we know that sin exists, that it must manifest itself here, and so then the dancing starts.
Right.
So.
Okay, so we've got authority figure, we've got people who are believing a narrative can have, actual real world behavior. And it seems importantly, there's no requirement for like the actual factual basis or like evidence, right? It's just like a person in authority is believed because obviously they got there for some reason, right?
Right, and the physical evidence is actually self-produced, right? So if we sin, Saint Vitus will punish us. Well, look, I'm dancing.
Right, I'm being punished.
Right, so
look, I'm punished.
Right, exactly. And another component Showalter brings up is that societal pressure and cultural pressure. So again, if you think of of politics, the way that you encourage people to send $5 today is to explain how terrible the story is if the other side wins.
Yeah.
Right. So it's creating that panic of, the sense of urgency, because there's it's not usually a famine in our case, but like a plague of, whatever the other belief is.
Right. And then, because no one's motivated by, it would be nice to join this club, right? There has to be a sense of urgency. There has to be a sense of existential threat. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend anybody like listen to it, but just because I find it so disturbing. But I have listened to the Jonestown tapes, like when they are drinking the Kool-Aid, and you can literally hear what he is saying. You can hear, kind of people like crying out and screaming, and it very much follows that, because he was immediately who I was thinking of, Jim Jones. Yes, Jim Jones. Initially when we said that, because he kind of has a lot of those things. I didn't know what the physical response would be, but literally physically knowing that you're going to drink something that's going to take your own life, I mean, like, as a response, I think is enough to be considered hysterical, right? And that checks off all of those boxes. And so that's why I've always found that audio so disturbing. Like, that to me is one of the most disturbing, if not the most disturbing piece of audio like I've heard, just because you can hear collectively that everybody is on board. And like, when I think of hysterical behavior, I mean, how can you not? Because you'd want to save anybody who's that entrenched in it. But again, people are on the island, and, it's like, sorry, folks, like, they got us. So you know what you got to do. If you want, the eternal paradise, you got to make this call. Yeah.
I guess a piece of good news is that these sort of mass hysterias can happen without dire consequences.
Pokemon?
I don't know. Turn Ron into a thief. Grand larceny.
Sure did.
My soul's never been clean since.
Yeah.
Hey, Ron, why are you dancing? The Beatlemania, for example, in the 1950s would be an example, but an interesting one that I found when I was looking into this occurred in 1962 in Tanganyika, which is in Africa. Was a German colony that was taken over by the British after World War I, they got independence. They received their independence from the UK in 1961 in December. And in January 1962, at a girls' school, there was a plague of laughing.
Yeah.
So it started with three girls who just couldn't.
Wait, but did it? Oh, no one died?
Well, three girls couldn't stop laughing. It started to spread to their classmates. It got so bad they had to close the school. And apparently, so they would laugh uncontrollably. It seems like they were but they did stop at some point, but then like it would start up again. It spread throughout the town. Several other villages and schools were affected in the nearby area. So it's a local, like it's almost like a contagion, but it's sort of housed. I wonder how that would happen today. Because, our ability to communicate is so much faster today and everybody's online. Like if they're,
the killing joke,
right.
Someone posts it's the entertainment from Infinite Jest, right? It's too funny.
Right. Yeah.
But it got so bad that they did have like some of them, they would faint or they would have respiratory problems because they were laughing so hard that they were getting hypoxic. But good news is nobody died, and it only lasted about 6 months. But can you imagine 6 months living in a town where
like school
people were just laughing,
kids laughing?
Yeah. So
I do feel like I've been at the cusp of a near laughing pandemic, like when I was in school, because the ability of laughter to sort of infect people. Right. We've all been there, right? Like I understand that. That's pretty extreme, though.
Right. Yeah. I feel that way every time we get together.
Yeah.
That's
I just can't stop.
It's pretty good.
Can't stop, won't stop podcasting. Stop asking us to.
And I sure hope that we are inspiring our listeners to be hysterical for us. And be our followers. So well, thank you both for chatting about the dancing plague in 1518.
Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I had no idea.
I've never wanted to dance more.
All right. Well, here you go.
Never wanted to dance less.
Ready to go.